So I'll now introduce you to our facilitator for today. Kara Guthrow-Murgatroyd is our Education and Support Coordinator for HRM. And off to you, Kara.
Thank you, Marco. Welcome everyone this afternoon to our virtual education session. As Marco had said, I work for the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia in Halifax as an education coordinator. As we begin, I would like to first acknowledge, however, that we are gathered today on sacred land that has been the site of human activity since immemorial. We are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We are all treaty people. So as we are using the platform today to stay connected to you, please feel free to ask questions using the private confidential chat box, which is addressed to ASNS host, who will be Marco, who's behind the scenes today. If you don't see it, however, just use your mouse to hover near the bottom of the screen. It should pop up for you. Just remember to hit enter so that we actually get the question that you give to us. Questions will only be seen by the ASNS host, and we will get to those other questions that we can't get to during the presentation. If you'd like to ask those questions, if we don't get to those, please send an email to alzheimer@asns.ca. So our audience today will be people living with dementia, people caring for people with dementia, and also people who would like to learn more. Our session today will be approximately 40 minutes and will allow about 10 minutes or so for the Q&A. And I have a privilege today to introduce today's topic and today's speaker. Today's topic is Thrive in Stressful Times, Staying Connected. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Keri-Leigh Cassidy. Dr. Keri-Leigh is a professor of psychiatry and clinical academic director of Dalhousie's geriatric psychiatry program at the Nova Scotia Health Authority, a multidisciplinary outreach team. She is the founder of the Fountain of Health, a national not-for-profit association supporting brain and health resilience. And Dr. Cassidy is actually the recipient of national awards, including the 2016 CAGP's Outstanding Contributions in Geriatric Psychiatry Award, 2018 CIHR Betty Havens Prize for Knowledge Translation in Aging, and the 2019 Canadian Psychiatric Association for Creative Professional Activity. And with that, Keri-Leigh, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kara and Marco. I'm really delighted to be here and to be joining all of you today to talk about what is a topic that I'm very passionate about. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you a few ideas and resources that I hope you'll find useful. And there's also some interactivity in this presentation, so I hope that will be fun for you all. As Kara mentioned, I'm going to be sharing with you some tools and resources that have been developed through this nonprofit association. The goal of this association is to do what I'm doing today, which is to share the science of well-being and behavior change with people everywhere. And it's a delight to be sharing it with the audience here with Alzheimer's Society. Our goal is to help you feel that you're able to thrive in the face of what are really difficult and challenging times. And so through that, you'll learn about some resources we have through our Learning Center and other resources that are available in the community. I'll be touching on something called Optimal Aging Workshops and a few other key resources. Just to mention that this work is part of a larger group of people all involved, including the Alzheimer's Society at a national level and the Canada's Research Chair for Health Promotion and Preventative Medicine and others. So to begin, the overview today, we'll be talking about what it really means to thrive and reviewing with you the science that we now know about what helps people to do well, even in tough times. I'll be sharing with you an approach we call the Thrive approach to well-being, which includes a few steps that you can take in a few key action areas. And then you will get a chance to apply a little bit of what you're learning today as well. What does it mean to thrive? The dictionary says to flourish, to grow, prosper. But another part of the definition is this: to progress toward or realize a goal despite or even because of circumstances, which means that any of us at any point, no matter what challenges we may be faced with, have the potential to be able to thrive. And these are very stressful circumstances. Right now in the fourth wave with Omicron, it just goes on, doesn't it? And the implications for our healthcare system and for those of us looking for help from the healthcare system, there's a lot of uncertainty. It creates isolation and loneliness for all of us. It adds to our already existing worries about our health, chronic health conditions, whether it be cognitive problems or physical and other difficulties. And it makes us very aware of the passing of time and how we are clinging to these precious moments in a way that may not feel ideal. And in fact, in research, it's showing that the impact of this pandemic has been enormous, particularly on older people who are now twice as likely to have depression than they were beforehand. And that social participation and loneliness are key factors into why older people especially are feeling hard hit. This has been covered in the media as well. Very recently, early January, a dual pandemic, COVID and loneliness that won't go away. It's really hard hitting for older people. And I really appreciated this quote from a colleague of mine, Reverend Diane Parker, who is associated with the CARP, the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. There's a dual pandemic in our midst. Social isolation among the aging population was already a pandemic before COVID, but it's now at a new height. And we can't lose sight of that. We must do something about it collectively as a community. And this talk today is my contribution to that spirit. But it's particularly difficult for all of us who are either coping with neurocognitive problems or dementia, and all of those around who are helping, caregivers, family members. And that also has been covered in the media, even this one from last year, talking about how COVID confinement robs people of precious time. And it may even fast track the progression of symptoms because of a lack of the usual activities and so on. It's particularly stressful for caregivers trying to both provide, meet the resources, find the resources, and ensure that people are not being unduly exposed to risks. And so who cares for all of us caregivers in the wave of COVID? It's particularly challenging. Here's a quote from somebody who is dealing with both caregiving as a professional in the healthcare system and at home. As a working professional, mother, and caregiver to someone with early Alzheimer's disease, I have experienced unprecedented levels of burnout, grief from COVID. The past year has been unimaginable with the benefits of trying to balance safety needs, social well-being needs, and cobbling together resources. I'm wondering if anybody who's joined here today relates to this. It's been a very difficult quadratic equation that is almost impossible to solve, balancing all of these needs in the face of these difficult times. So I thought we'd start by doing a check-in to ask, how are you feeling? Everybody online today, whether you're a professional caregiver, a care provider, or somebody who's doing it at home, whether you're receiving that kind of care, how are you doing? So we can think of this in terms of a word, a phrase, an emotion, or even the weather. And you can put your answers in the chat box. Are you feeling kind of gloomy, gray, foggy? Are you feeling bright or optimistic or happy? Are you feeling kind of agitated, irritable, frustrated, or peaceful and calm? What are you bringing into this session today? And I'll just invite you to reflect on how you're feeling today. And add your comments in chat right now. Let's see, I don't see the chat response. Let me see.
Yeah, let's just see here. I think one of the, I'm just going to jump in here. I don't see anything in the chat there just yet, Keri-Leigh, but I'm thinking uncertainty is one of those things that people have been feeling a lot lately, and talking to colleagues and, you know, and talking to some of our clients through InfoLine and some of those services.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for sharing that. It's very unclear where all of this is going, and nobody's got the crystal ball. A bit discouraged, someone said. Yeah, it is hard, isn't it, after we've all had our vaccines and boosters, to see that this latest wave is affecting more people than we've ever seen in previous waves.
Disconnected.
Yes, we're encouraged to do as little as we can, not go out. It can cause a real our social circles to shrink when we're trying to follow those guidelines. So as you're continuing to reflect on about your emotions that you're bringing into this session today, why you wanted to come and hear this talk today, and where you're at, I'll just invite you to take a minute to have a little moment to try to focus our attention in a new way. So before we go further, I'll just guide you through, just for a couple of minutes, a little exercise on how we can shift our attention, and that is something that we do have some influence over. So as you think about what emotions you might be carrying with you today and in this moment, I'd invite you to just notice where you're feeling that in your body. And whether you feel a little bit of tightness in your shoulders, your back, in your chest, or where you might feel a bit of tension, or where your body is, if you did a little scan of your body, where you're feeling any sensations. And then what we'll do is we'll try the small exercise where we shift our attention away from these. So whether you want to keep your eyes open or shut, just take a minute to put your attention on those physical sensations. And then try to shift your attention to your felt sense of your body, the feeling of the gentle tug of gravity on your body, pulling you down in your chair, pulling down on your shoulders, your seat, even your feet on the floor. And as you do that, take a minute to notice a sound in the room, something you hadn't appreciated before. Have you got a sound that you hadn't noticed before? And now I'll invite you to bring your attention to your breath. You don't have to change how you're breathing at all. Just notice the felt sensation of movement of air going in and out. The air at the back of your nose or in your lungs. And now I'll invite you to bring your attention back to my voice and this presentation, and we'll move on. So just take a minute to think about what we did there. You shifted your attention from your worries, the tension in your body, to the feeling of your body in your chair, to the sound in a room, and then to your breath. And what that tells you is that you're able to shift your attention on command. And what's important about that is that when we get overwhelmed and we're not sure, what's coming next, and we have a sense of uncertainty or any other strong negative feelings, one thing we can do is notice that and then make an active choice about where we put our attention. And if you tend to get your thoughts like a runaway train, taking you off into a worried place, keep in mind that it is possible to shift your attention at any moment and bring it back to something that actually makes you feel more settled and grounded. So that's what we did just now, and you can use that approach anytime you want. In general, what happens is that people get a sense of relaxation, of somewhat less stress, and will begin to have either a warmth in their body or a sense of calmness that they weren't noticing before. So I don't know if anybody had that experience. I know I did. So this was a segue into what helps us to thrive, because this kind of effort, these tiny little micro habits that we have, that we can inject into our day to sort of settle our nervous system when we're upset, turns out to be extremely beneficial for our health. In the words of Ben Franklin, an ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure. What do we mean by that? How many of you would guess that the percentage of human longevity that's caused by what you inherit in your family genes is below or above that 50% mark? So when we think about to what degree is the genes that we inherited from our own families accounting for how long we're going to live, you could guess what the answer on that is. The answer is only 25%. Many people will guess it's more like 85%. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the other side of this equation, what percentage of chronic disease is attributed to our health, to our lifestyle? The answer is at the other end of the spectrum. What does that tell us? That means that to live a long, healthy life, there is much that's contributed to by our lifestyle, by our day-to-day habits. And that's what the project is about. Sharing with you the idea of emphasizing that these tiny self-care activities you do for exercise, sleep, connecting with others, and managing your stress at any given moment can make a difference over a lifetime. For example, relationships, having close and trusted relationships increases our longevity, lowers the risk of depression, and is the best predictor of our well-being across our entire lifespan. So, what are you doing despite all these barriers, despite all the stress? What are you doing these days to stay connected with other people? Other things that promote happiness besides being with others in various forms is kindness to ourselves and others, having compassion in difficult moments, taking time to relax like we did just now, and having a sense of gratitude for the things that we do have in our lives. These are the elements that science of happiness is telling us makes a difference to our well-being. So what it means, though, is that we need to kind of move out of our comfort zone. That's the way that we normally do things. We may not always take time for taking care of our physical health, getting exercise, and what that can lead to over time is further illness. So we get out of our comfort zone and be more proactive about what we do to take care of ourselves. That's what leads to optimal aging. Now, New Year's resolutions, of course, we've just had the new year. That's a perfect time for people to think about what they want to do to take care of themselves better, or new goals that they have, but they don't always work. And the reason is that people often overshoot them. They make big goals that are a bit overly ambitious, and they kind of fizzle out. So we want to talk about a more stable, steady, reliable path to help you to get your way on a path towards improved well-being. That's what the Fountain of Health Thrive approach to well-being does. So in a nutshell, what it involves is a 3-step process. First, you think, how am I doing right now in these different areas? Then you set a small goal that you think you can achieve, and you track your progress. Now, it sounds simple. It's a little harder to actually do it. So this is what it looks like. Assess how you're doing in one of these Thrive areas, which are your thoughts, your health habits, your relationships, your interests, your valued goals, and your emotions. Then you set a goal in one of those areas, and you track it. You can track it on paper in a calendar, or we have something called the Wellness app, which is a free web-based app that allows you to track your goal. We have tried this approach, this 3-step approach, in over 1,500 people and 2,200 clinicians across the country who followed their patients for 4 weeks and found that 80% at least partially met that goal that they set, had improved outlook and well-being. So when I talk about this 3-step approach working, I mean that we've really checked it out, and it's worth a try. We offer a way to support people to do this in what we call the 4-week Optimal Aging Workshop. And people who have come through this 4-week workshop, it's sort of like this, it's online now for 4 weeks long, have found that they've been able to set a health goal, meet a health goal, change their outlook, and would recommend it to other people. So it comes with a strong recommendation. 96% of our participants think that you should come. So people have said things like, going through this 3-step process through our workshops, I have more energy now, I'm walking more, I'm socializing. It's a big deal to accomplish this. It makes me consider whether being deliberate about engaging in certain activities might positively influence how I age. I'm rethinking what successful aging means to me, and I feel more positive. I took up 2 new physical activities. So what this is telling you is that when people get started in activating themselves in new ways, they get excited about it. And instead of feeling kind of helpless and overwhelmed, they begin to feel a sense of agency, and that even with all these restrictions and all the obstacles, there are things that we can each do that are doable for us, that make us feel better. Why does this work? This approach is based on something called cognitive behavior therapy, and what it does is it shows the relationships between our thoughts, our behaviors, and our feelings. So if our thought is, I'm over the hill now, it's downhill from here, or, well, I have cognitive impairment, and so what am I going to be benefiting from? Or I'm a caregiver and I'm overwhelmed, whatever the thought is, it can lead us to kind of withdraw or become more sedentary because we're defeating ourselves to a degree in the way that we think about our lives. If we can activate a behavior, however small, however, it has to be doable, it has to be safe for you. But if you can activate a behavior, it can lead to a new thought like, oh, I can do this. I value myself. I value my health. This makes me feel better. And then you have improved mood, well-being, and lowered anxiety. So we don't have to wait for our thoughts to improve or even the situation to improve before we can start to feel better. If you choose a behavior that's right for you, that getting it done and starting to actually succeed at it is a great way to help yourself thrive. It is in fact the definition of thriving. This is based also on something called brain neuroplasticity, which is the fact that our brain changes with our activities. One of my very favorite projects of all time has been bringing music therapy into long-term care for people with advanced dementia. And although some of that program was limited by COVID, it did still continue to a degree using virtual means. But the reason it works so well is because of brain neuroplasticity. So what means is that somebody who is very advanced in dementia, but who had music in their life in the past, is able to activate new parts of their brain by engaging in music therapy, which then makes them more interactive with others, more enlivened, and you can see it on their face in the way that they're engaging. Somebody who might be completely withdrawn in most other situations really comes to life. It's quite amazing. And likewise, for those of us who are doing caregiving or have other types of baseline activities that we're doing, likewise, if we are engaging in an activity that promotes our brain health, it has a generalized effect. And in fact, we can shift our brain through that experience, no matter what stage we are, no matter what age we are. The best way, though, to optimize this brain neuroplasticity is through setting a goal that we can meet. Because when you meet the goal, you'll give yourself positive self-talk, and you'll be able to problem solve and come up with a solution to keep things going. So the goal here is to help learn how to set a SMART goal in one of the key areas. So you could ask yourself right now, what area would you like to set a goal in? Would it be in your thoughts, positive thinking? Are you overwhelmed with negative worried thoughts? Would you like to do a little more physical activity or eat a little better? Would you like to have more connections with others, learn something new, or take better care of your emotional well-being? Set a goal you want to do, not something you think you ought to do, and something that is where you're at right now. A meaningful goal that makes you feel like you're moving towards something positive is more likely to be something you'll actually do. So you don't have to force yourself into something that you ought to do, should do, but rather you want to do. SMART goals. This is an acronym for the type of goals that actually work. Not New Year's resolutions, but small specific steps. So they stand for specific. What concrete step could you take? Meaningful. Why would this be a good goal for you? Measurable. How will you know if you achieve this goal? Actions. What action or behavior is needed? Realistic. This is perhaps the most important one. Is this doable for you right now under these circumstances? And time limited. When are you going to do this? What time of day and how often? Then when you have something in your mind, you think, how small could I make this and still have it be meaningful? That's called the 50% rule. You cut it down. So if you thought you might go for a walk 3 times a week, make it once. Break it down into an even smaller goal. It's important that it be small because that gives us the ripple effect. Small goal is one that we can achieve. And once we achieve it, we start to feel better. We're more likely to repeat it. And then over time, that's where we really see a difference in outcomes. So as you see at this plane, if it has a different direction at takeoff, after a few minutes, it doesn't make a difference. But over time, it makes a very big difference. So if you're someone who has always liked music, but you've gotten away from, let's say, playing the piano, just make a goal to sit down for 5 minutes once a week. Over time, what happens is that 5 minutes becomes increased and more enjoyable, and you find yourself back into it again. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Just pick a small goal that puts you one step in the right direction of something that you feel would be enjoyable for you. The third step is tracking your goal. And that is because when we set a tiny goal, sometimes we think it's so insignificant that we don't really need to pay too much attention. But I'm here to tell you that's not the case. It's the third and key and most important part of this 3-step process. And you can do that on paper, or you can use this app that I mentioned if you're someone who uses that kind of thing. And you can try it out. So it's at wellnessapp.ca. You only need to have an internet connection and an email in order to sign up for that. Now, here are some things to get you thinking about what activities you might want to do and why you might want to do them. Physical activity improves our heart, our blood sugar, our mood, helps people with addictions, insomnia, helps us with our brain health. It's the most powerful promoter of brain neuroplasticity, which is that ability of the brain to rewire and regrow over our lifetime. And the single best thing you can do for your overall physical health. So simply moving your body will improve your health and well-being. Do something you want to do that's safe for you to do. Dance in your living room. Do some stretches. If it's not too icy, go for a little walk outside with somebody that's in your bubble. And there are, as this fourth wave ends, there'll be more things opening up in the way of recreation centers and community centers. And many of them offer online programs. So you can look into it. There's also the community health teams, which have online programming that's also excellent. Taking care of your mental health is very important. So if you think you're suffering from significant depression or anxiety, reach out for help. Ask somebody, talk to somebody. And there's also these help resources, the Nova Scotia's Mental Health Services, Caregivers Nova Scotia, and so on. We went through that exercise at the beginning to help you notice your stress, pay attention to your body, choose a relaxation method that works for you, whether that's deep breathing or not. Because when our bodies are wired up like this kitty cat, very stressed and tense, it's very hard to fall asleep at night. It's hard to focus. We need a chance for our bodies to unwind. So like this cat on the right, no problem getting sleep when you're this relaxed. That method that we went through is the first step of what's called the relaxation response. That little bit of warmth, that little bit of relaxation you felt is part of your body's natural system to help you de-stress. And there are many ways of achieving it, including mindfulness, meditation, yoga, even going for a walk or doing some exercise helps. It calms your nerve, it will improve your sleep, and it's very much worth having this skill. Social connection. Now, we know that we all have to stay some physical distance apart, but we don't have to be alone. Being alone is, a sense that you haven't anybody in your corner, nobody who will reach out to you, and vice versa. So reaching out in any form will help us feel less lonely. And it's a chance to actually think more creatively about how we connect with other people and do it in a meaningful way with people we love. So whether that's Zoom, like we do on here, phone, or being outside with others, there's many different ways to find ways to connect. And maybe you've come up with some novel and interesting ones. Some people have even tried having dinner with other people over Zoom. But anybody that you think might be feeling lonely, reaching out to let them know that you're thinking about them in some way is an act of kindness and compassion, and it will benefit your own well-being to reach out to somebody else in that way. I wanted to let you know about a new resource through something called Wellness Together Canada, which was created due to the unprecedented rise in mental health concerns during the COVID pandemic through the government. There is a warm line, which means it's available for part of the day in the evenings, 7 days a week, that you can call and have someone that you can talk to. So the number is there. So this is a new and novel way that you could feel less isolated and have someone that you can connect to each day. You may be already aware of more local resources like the Positive Aging Directory, and it has activities in all 6 domains of the Fountain of Health Thrive model in terms of improving thoughts, improving health habits, improving social connections, new learning, and relaxation and other methods you can find in this book. There's also the 211 service, which you can call for support, for conversation, mental health support, anytime. In terms of caring for us caregivers, Caregivers Nova Scotia, as well as the Alzheimer's Society, have wonderful supports, phone supports and others, looking online. And so imagine those who are here are already converts in that department, but you may be missing some things that they have to be offering you. So make sure you keep checking in and looking around. I'd like to tell you also about this wonderful program called the Memory Cafe, which is a place for people who have dementia and their families and caregivers to come together without any stigma and in a very welcome social space. It's now a virtual cafe, and it is happening, I think, on Tuesdays. So you get to have conversations, art, storytelling, all kinds of wonderful things, and you can find out more on this website. Another really novel way to feel less isolated. And there's resources through our online website, the fountainofhealth.ca. We have a learning center coming soon, which should be launched in the next month or two. The wellness app I mentioned, and you can register for the 4-week Optimal Aging Workshop series if you'd like help to set and meet a health goal, and you don't want to do it alone, and you'd like to learn something new and connect with other people. This is what it's for. What would you expect if you were going to sign up for the Optimal Aging series? It would be a 4 weeks, kind of like this, but with more interaction with everybody. It's for anybody who's sort of midlife and up. It is not tailored for people who have moderate or severe cognitive problems, but certainly everybody else it will work for. The Memory Cafe that I just mentioned is a better fit if you're in that group. It will help you feel more connected, help you feel supported, help you set and meet a valued goal. And you saw the results that we've had. 96% of people recommend that you come. What would be expected of you is that you would have a device like today for audiovisual link and an internet connection, that you would come for all 4 weeks. That's about an hour and a half a week. And that you come willing and ready to work on a goal. So please consider joining. If you live in the HRM, you can join the next Optimal Aging Workshop series in April by reaching out to the community health teams, which is online here, and you can call their 1-800 number. If you're outside of the HRM, we offer it as well in connection with Baycrest Center in Toronto. And if you're interested, just email us at info@fountainofhealth.ca, and we'll follow up and hook you up with the next group that's running. info@fountainofhealth.ca. There'll be other resources once we launch our website. This is the first sneak peek that the public's getting of what we have, but it will have resources for individuals, organizations, and for clinicians like me. So you can stay tuned for that. And I'll stop there, and we'll still have plenty of time for questions and interactivity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Keri-Leigh. The information that you provided, it's so important now more than ever. It's important all the time, but as you said, we're sort of living through this sense of uncertainty, and to be able to have these resources to connect with when people are feeling disconnected, it's huge. It makes such a difference, and looking at, sort of that, I guess the quote that you had suggested, or that you had shared from Dr. Parker, or Reverend Parker, I should say, there's that dual pandemic, social isolation among the aging population, but now sort of partnered with COVID, it just makes it that much more difficult. So how important it is to take care of ourselves and what that looks like, and looking at the Thrive program to be able to do that. I have some questions. So the first question that I'd like to share with you is, one person had said, my biggest barrier right now is the initiative, sort of that get up and go. I'd like to make these changes, but I feel like I'm planted in cement. How do I motivate myself to make that first step?
That's a wonderful question. Yeah, so when we talk about behavior change, people will fall into one of three categories. One is, yes, I'm ready to go. Two is, I'm not so sure. And third is, I'm in cement, no go, I can't start. So when you're in that state, there's a few things you can do about that. One is just let yourself off the hook and say, I'm going to wait till a better time. Usually when people have a sense of renewal, a new year, a new situation, the beginning of a new week, the starting of spring, they may feel a little bit of a stirring around wanting to make a change. Another is to give yourself self-compassion. So self-compassion for when we're feeling at our worst might be the most useful new goal that you could set. When we talk about goals, it can be a little overwhelming to hear about it, but a goal, like I talked about for happiness, can include being idle, not doing anything at all, having gratitude, showing yourself self-compassion. So instead of thinking in the traditional ways about what a goal is, I'd invite you to think in new ways about what actually science tells us helps us to feel better. So self-compassion for you as you feel stuck in cement could be something as basic as talking to yourself about that and how that feels and how hard that feels, and pretending that you are your own best friend. So if you had a good friend who felt that way, what would you say to them? Is it possible to say those same things to yourself? And if you tried that once a week for 5 minutes, give yourself a little love and talk to yourself and say, this is just a really hard time. I wish you peace. I wish you love. I wish you comfort in this difficult time. And see what happens.
I wish you peace. I wish you comfort and joy too in this difficult time. That self-compassion.
I wish you joy in this difficult time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
talking
beautiful.
to yourself like you would someone who's your most beloved person on earth.
And
is a very, very unique and surprising goal that if you can try it, experiment with it, and actually fulfill it, it might start loosening up the mud or the cement that you feel that you're in.
Definitely. Loosening up the mud and the cement, like you said. Maybe what I'll get you to do is I'll get you to stop sharing your screen there, Keri-Leigh, and we can have a conversation there. So that's so key, as you said, that self-compassion piece. And one of the statements actually that came through the chat was, thank you for highlighting self-compassion. Sometimes that negative self-talk gets the best of me. So this person says, I'll have to practice more kindness to myself on this journey.
That is it. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, and when I talked about, it's a bit of an academic thing, this triangle, but that negative self-talk, whatever it is for you, we all have it, can end up really paralyzing us, shrinking our world down more than it's actually necessary. And so the ability to just start something that ignites a little bit of enthusiasm, a sense of change, a sense of freshness in your life, it can be very tiny, but if it's meaningful to you, it can really help to begin that, what I call that the cognitive ripple effect. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I can do a little bit here. That's the thing you're looking for, is the shift in your thinking that comes from the shift in your behavior.
So it's the shift in the thinking which helps with this shift in behavior. And as you said, it's sort of that the emotions and our behavior and our thinking, they're all interrelated. And to be aware of that, which is sort of the key. And
yes, so being aware of it is really the first start. So when we asked you to think about how are you feeling today, that's the start of the awareness. Where do you feel that in your body? That's awareness. But you don't want to leave it just at that. You also want to either release it, let it go, or acknowledge and just accept it, and not have a new cascade of negative thoughts come. That's the secret, is not to let your self-awareness of how difficult things are, how bad you may be feeling, become the end of the story. It's really just the beginning.
Yeah, so it's releasing it. It's acknowledging it and then having the ability to release it. Great.
That's right. And it can be as simple as noticing the feeling of gravity on your body, or the connection of your feet to the floor, or shifting your attention from this catastrophic set of thoughts and feelings to the sound in a room. So that exercise I offered is very powerful. It's called diffusion.
Diffusion?
It's a diffusion technique, and it helps us to settle our nervous system rather than it getting revved up. And it's very important to be able to do that. It's very useful to do at night. Often people find in the quietude of the evening and the day settled down, that's when the worries take off and the preoccupations start, and it can make it very hard to get to sleep. You add into that news watching and all the terrible things that we hear in the news
else that's happening
right before we go to bed at night. So, that revs up the nervous system. So our ability to settle our own nervous system is one of the most powerful tools that we have available to us, and it's within our own hands.
Wonderful. I had a question about the app itself. This person has said that they're not very tech savvy. So they're curious, is the wellness app for the Thrive program, is it easy to use, the functionality of it?
It's very simple.
Okay.
And you don't go to an app store. There's no downloading. All you need to do is, if you could get to this talk today, you probably have what you need. So you need an email account, and you need an internet connection. And if you have those two things, you'll be able to use it.
Okay.
Basically, you go to that website. It's either the Fountain of Health, which will invite you to go to the app, or you go to wellnessapp.ca, and it'll walk you through registering, where you need to put in an email address and so on. And then you just start working, set your goal. What the app will do, though, is once you set your little goal for yourself, what we call the micro goal, that it has to be meaningful for you. But it does not have to be big. In fact, if you're thinking of something that feels like something you might have been able to do 10 years ago, it's definitely too big. So you want to choose something that's doable for you right now under these circumstances. You write that in, and then what you'll do is you get some reminders in your email and encouragement, and you can track each day on a calendar, and it goes for 4 weeks. And at the end of the 4 weeks, you get a little report about how did that go, and then you can do it again, set another goal.
And those reminder emails are really key, because they keep us, on track, like you said.
That's the tracking part.
It's sort of
That's
that
the tracking.
It's the tracking, yeah. Sort of like you have that friend
key.
that calls and says, "Come on, let's go."
That's right.
It's snowing outside, so you have the email that will.
That's right. And if you want to have support in doing this, even more support, then the 4-week workshop that we've talked about. The vast majority of people have success when they go through it in a supported way. So that's the workshop uses the same approach, the same materials, the same app, and all of that. So if you're looking for additional help on how to get out of the cement, that workshop would be one way to do it.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Keri-Leigh Cassidy. We really appreciate you coming in today to share your knowledge, your experience, and with this app to help us to thrive when it can be difficult at times. We're actually going to put up our info line slide here, but as we do this, for those of you who may have a question, if you have a concern, or if you'd like to make a confidential call with one of our staff members through the info line, please feel free to call us. We are actually posting a poll right now, so we would like you to take the time to answer the poll for us. There's a couple of questions in there. If you'd like to take that poll, we will get the results from that. The other thing I wanted to mention to you as you're sort of reviewing the poll is the fact that this January is Alzheimer Awareness Month, and next week, January 27th, which is Thursday, we will actually have a awareness poll. So that is dementia, why should I get a diagnosis? That runs from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And we'll have some guest speakers, Dr. Arlene Kelly-Wiggins, who is a physician at the Sydney Geriatric Clinic. We will also have Dawn Thomas, who's a senior safety coordinator, and Anne Cherie Reynolds, who is a care partner. So we invite you to stay tuned for that next week, January 27th. And again, Dr. Keri-Leigh, thank you so much for sharing the Fountain of Health's Thrive approach to well-being. It's such a valuable program, really, to promote brain health and well-being, especially now that we really need that. We really need that support more than ever, I think. So thank you so much for your time today. And again, I would suggest for those of you who are interested in connecting with somebody confidentially to call our 1-800-611-6345 number and talk to one of our InfoLine staff. So this session, again, it is recorded and will be hosted on the ASNS YouTube channel so that you can watch it again, share it with your friends, family, colleagues, partners. We will leave the Zoom room open for a few minutes so that we can continue to take the information from the poll. So thank you all once again, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for sharing your time with us.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you all for taking the time to join today and trying something new and different by hearing about this information. It shows that you have curiosity and that you're searching for ways to feel better. And that's a very important step.
Thank you.